So when you open up the Excel document, you should see something like this. So here's all the raw data from a couple of experiments we did last year for steel, which is not annealed, for steel annealed, brass, and aluminium. For each of them, we've recorded the diameter of the test piece, and we also have the extension and the force. So we would have started off with 0 extension, and then we had 0.0075, we doubled it, we went up another 0.0075. We keep getting longer and longer, and in doing so we're adding more and more force to pull the test sample longer and longer. So in this part of the assignment, you need to take these force and extension values and convert them into stress and strain, and then we can do a plot. So I'm going to get you using formulas. So there's a couple of formulas in here already. Before we do that, we might type in our name here, right? So just fill in your name there and have a look here. This is how you do a formula in Excel. You start off by typing equal to, and then you can click on any cell you want to appear. So in this one here, I've typed equal to, and then I've gone back to the raw data. I want this one here to appear, steel. So I click enter. So it goes off to the sheet called raw data, which is this sheet here, and it goes to cell A1. So if we go into raw data and look at cell A1, so all the cells have addresses. The columns here are ABC, the rows are 1, 2, 3. So if I want A1, that's it there, A1. Same below, sheet called raw data, and it's cell A2. We've left out the diameter here, so we'll put in that as well. We'll click equal to, which means we're starting the formula, and then we'll click on the diameter. So if I go back here, that was the diameter there. I'm going to click enter now, and the diameter appears there. Now down here, we're going to need to do some calculations. So you've already done them in the lab earlier, and now we're going to do them in Excel. So the stress, so we're not dealing with the yield stress here, we're dealing with the first stress that we had based on this force here. So what's the formula for stress? It's force, so let's start again, it's equal to the force. So the first data point, the force was 45, so that there is going to turn into 45, and it's divided by the area. So divided by the area then is pi r squared. So pi then, there's a function in Excel called pi, so I can just type in pi, or you can put in the numbers if you want, 3.14. And I'm going to say it's multiplied by, so if I did multiply here, you're familiar with bomb dash, it'll divide first and then it'll multiply, which is not what I want. I want the multiply to be underneath the line, so I'll stick brackets around this denominator here. So pi is multiplied by the radius squared. So this here is my diameter. So I'm going to put brackets around that diameter, and I'm going to square it. So use this upper chevron for a power symbol. So this is going to square the diameter, and I need to divide that by 4. Divide it by 4. I'll put brackets around that as well. So if I click enter then, it should bring me back here and it should give the stress. It's done out as a formula. Strain then, so strain is the change in length divided by the original length. So I have the extension here, so that's the change in length. So I'm going to say it's equal to the extension, which is this number here, and then that has to be divided by the original length. Now I don't have the original length yet here. I'll just put in 1 for the minute. Right, so to get the original length, we might want to put it in here into our data, length. Put it in millimeters, because delta L is also in millimeters. I'll just double check that. This is in millimeters, yes, so we'll stick with millimeters. And I don't know what the original length was. I'm going to put in 25 here. And I'm going to fix my strain formula. It's the change in length divided by the 25. So I won't put in 25, I'm going to click on the cell. Now I don't want to have to repeat that every single time because we're starting off on row 7 here and we're going down to row 717. So that's 711 samples, is it? That'd be a lot of work. So what I want to do is I want to take this formula here and I want to copy it down. So when I copy it down, look at this, we're on B7 here. If I go down to the next one, it's B8. So it's moved down. So it's taken the B7 from here, where is it? 45, and now we have the 75. That bit there is done perfect. And it's divided by pi, that's the same. And then it's multiplied by B5. B5 now should be the diameter. So B5, B4 was here originally, and the next one it's moving down to this one here to look for the diameter. The diameter doesn't move down, it stays in this cell here. So we have to do a little trick to make that a constant. So this B5 should be B4 up here, like it was in the first one. So I don't want that number to change. The 7 I wanted to turn into 8 alright for the force, but the 4 I wanted to remain 4. So what we do there is we use the dollar symbol, and that'll make that 4 a constant. So we'll try it again. We'll copy it down, and instead of getting divided by 0 error, we get the correct value. And I'm going to do that all the way down until we get to row 711. What was it? 717, wasn't it? So we'll let go here and see how we're getting on. I'll just double check there's no more that after that. There is. So I didn't go down far enough. 790. So that's all my force turned into stress values. I have to do something similar for strain. We have the change in length divided by the original length, and we can copy that down, and we get an error here. So once again, the first value, the A7, is turned into A8, and that's what we want. We want to go instead of A7 for the next one, we want A8. And then for the length was originally looking at cell B7 on this sheet, the blue one there, and the next time around it's looking at B8, which is the word strain. No, I want that to be B7 again. So I'm going to make the 7 a constant, so I put in a dollar symbol there, and then I'm going to drag that down, and it seems to be working now. So the trick here, you see the way the mouse is white cross and now the mouse is a black cross. If I double click there, it'll keep copying all the way down until the end, because it's just looking at the left hand side to see how far it needs to go. So that's all my strain values, and you need to do that again for the 3 other materials. So this one here, if you can figure out how to replicate what you've done there over here and get all the values coming up. So I'm not going to do it all out now, but I'm just going to put in a couple of values. I might just repeat what we have on the left. So let's say it's equal to this one. Right, so you don't repeat it, you work out the values corresponding to the anneal steel for your next set of data. I'm just shoving in a few values here so I can show you how to do a plot with multiple sets of data. So I have two sets of data here, even though they're both the same. And I want to put them on a plot. So before you do this now, make sure you finish off getting all the data for test sample 2, 3 and 4. When you have all that done, we're going to do a plot. So to do a plot, go up here, insert, and highlighting there. I have something highlighted, so I'll click enter there, get out of that. I'm still not able to do a chart, which I want to do. Alright, so I managed to get my insert tab back working. So I want to plot a graph of these two sets of data now. Let's give this other one a name. I'll call it Steel 2. So to plot a graph, there's different options here. What's relevant to what we want to do is we want lots of dots and we'd like the lines to be joined up. So we're going to use a scatter plot with lines. So there's nothing in this plot now, so we're going to have to edit it. So we'll go in here, and you might get a plot appearing straight away if you had data highlighted, but either way you can go and go to select data. So if you already have a plot done out, you could, if it's what you want, perfect, but if it's not, you can click on the data here and remove it, because we're going to add new data now. So a name, so select name, so we can tick on the box. The first set of data is going to be called steel, not annealed. See that little red dot there, you click on that. The X values, so we'll click on this here and we're going to highlight our X values. So what do we want on the X axis? The X axis is strain. So put all these values on our X axis. So we have them all highlighted. Okay. The Y axis, then there's already something highlighted there, so I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to click on this here. I'll go from the bottom and then I'm going to go all the way up to the top. I'm going to put my finger on the shift button and then left click. So that'll highlight all the way from A9 down as far as A719. And that's okay. And that's all my data plotted then. And that's okay, happy days. So that's data set 1. Now I want you to add a second data set, which is here. Now if I plot this data, it's just going to overlap that data. So let's maybe come out of this for a minute and let's change it. Maybe we'll shift it to the right. So I'll add on a value of, we'll plot it over here. What's that, about 0.02. So we're going to add on 0.02 to each one of these. So I'm going to say it's B plus 0.02. Now you don't need to do this with your data. You'll have real appropriate data here. I'm just making up data for the sake of an example. So you don't need to do this step. Right, so now I'm going to plot this data as a second set of data on the same graph. So I'll go back to the graph and I'll right click and I'll go to select data. And I have one set here already, so I'm going to add a new set of data. The name on it, I'm going to click on Steel 2, it's going to be called. And the X values, I'm going to want along the X axis strain. It seems to be highlighted there, we'll go again anyway. All the way down to the bottom. That's grand. The Y axis, we have number 1. I'm going to get rid of that, delete. And I'm going to put all this data here as my Y data. And I'll click enter. So that's my second set of data there now plotted. And I'll click OK. And I'm happy enough now with the data. I'm happy with my numbers here as well. There's a couple of more things you want to do. So I'd like to put titles on 2 axes. If you go over to the plus here, you can turn on axis titles. And we'll type them up. What else? We might want a chart title on it. We might want a legend because we're using 2 different sets of data. I'd like to know which is which. We won't bother with trend lines. If we're doing maybe linear data or that, we might fit a linear line through it, but we can see the lines there we have. And I think we should be good then. So you can give it a title here, whatever you want, type it in. You can give this a title. Make sure to put in your units as well. Now the symbol for stress, you can write the word stress, or we can look for the symbol here. So if we go to insert, and I'm going slightly outside of my screen, but just past here on the right, there's symbols. If I click on it, and I can look for, we're not in Latin here, we're talking Greek. So most of the math symbols we use are Greek. So you can find the Greek alphabet there somewhere. Click on that, and then we're looking for stress symbol. I can't see it, but perhaps you'll see it before me. We go down one, and there we have it. So there's a stress symbol. It may be in the recently viewed symbols here as well. So I go to insert this, and there's my stress symbol there. And you can put in the units then, megapascals. Strain, you can do a similar approach. Find a symbol there. You can write in the word if you wish. I'm not happy how much space this is taking up, so I'm going to try and narrow it down a bit. So you can play around with this yourself. And there's a large blank area here, so maybe to get my chart to use my area a bit more efficiently, I might put this in here. I might bring the chart out. And we can put a fill in there as well. Put a white fill. And maybe we put a little grey outline on the box around it. So you can mess around with this whatever way you wish. But that's your chart. So you're going to be doing this chart out for 4 sets of data. You should have 4 different sets of data there. A ledger with 4 different sets of data. And then we'll take this and we'll bring it into our report next week. Finally, it'd be nice to have some tables in the report as well. We could put in all the data here in a table in the report, but there's there's 719 rows in this table, so it's a lot and take up a lot of space. So instead of putting in all the data, maybe we put in a summary of it. So say we take maybe 20 points along this blue line. So to do that, we need cell 9, and then we'd have what would the next one be? So we have about 700 rows, and we want to divide it up into 20. So we want about 35. So every 35th row we'd like. So we want 9, and then we want equal to 9 plus 35. And then equal to the above one plus 35. So I'm going to put in 44 there. I'm going to put in 79 there. And we want this all the way down till we get to about 700. Now I want to access cell A9. I don't want 9 its own. So to show you a trick, if I put equal to A, I get an error. So I have to put in this little hyphen here and then put in equal to A. So it'll treat it as text. And I'm going to copy that down. I'm going to take all this here. I'm going to copy it and I'll put it into a text document. So I'll open up Notepad. So if you go to the start and you type in Notepad, N-O-T-E-P-A-D, it'll open up a Notepad file. And you can paste in then. Control and V will paste in that. And we have an increment here between the A and the 9. So I'm going to highlight that. And I'm going to go Control F, which is find. I'm going to try and find that, and then I'm going to replace it So I'm going to replace it with nothing. So I'm going to leave that blank. And I'm going to say replace all. So it just gets rid of all the spaces between the two. And now I'm going to copy all this. Copy, Control C. And I'm going to bring it back into my Excel sheet. So I'll delete these two because I don't need them anymore. Delete. And I'm going to paste in that then. Control and V will paste in. So this here is A9, this here is A44, and it's evaluating the first one, the 44th term, and so on. I can take all these then and I can copy the formula across to do it for B as well. So now I've got my stress and my strain. I'm only taking 20 samples. I'm going to use this for my table, but I just want to check that I'm accurately capturing the data. So I'm going to plot this on top of that graph now. You don't need to plot this in the lab, but this is just me doing a spot check. So I'm going to go in here, go to select data. I'm going to add a new set of data. And on the X, I'm going to put my strain. On the Y, I'm going to put my stresses. I'm going to click OK. OK. And you can see it there in grey. Grey is in a great colour, so let's format that. If you go over to the right, there's a little icon that looks like a paint tin with paint being poured out of it. It says fill and line. I click on that. The line is grey at the moment, so if you go into line there and click on colour, and in colour there's a picture of grey at the bottom of the paint tin. I'm going to change it to something bright like orange, and I'm going to click OK. I don't have to click OK, it's done it automatically. So you can see there that orange line is representing the 20 data points, which looks identical to the blue. So I'm very happy it's a good fit. So I'll undo that because I don't want that in my graph. And this is my table here, so you can tidy up your table then before you enter it into your report. So I can't see the end of this, so if you double click here, it'll make it the correct length. Double click here. The numbers, there's a load of decimal places. I don't really want any decimal places here, so I'm going to highlight that. I'm going to go to format. I'm going to go to number and tell it I don't want any decimal places. Now we need decimal places here. Let's say we go with 3 decimal places. Enough. So we go to format cells, number, we'll give it 3 decimal places. So there's my data. You can put a border on it as well. So there's borders up here. We'll put a border on all of these, and maybe around the outside then we might put a ticker border. So you can see in here, there's your ticker border around the outside. We put a tick border around the heading section as well. And we might make this a different colour. Might put it in grey. Just because it's the head, and it might make it bold as well. And sure, we'll go italic. And we might centre it. So if I highlight both of these, there's an option here to have it on the left, the right. I'm going to put it in the centre. Happy enough with that. I don't know what sample that is. That was for the steel. So let's take this and copy it and put it in here. And this is the steel. So that didn't work. So let's try it again. Control C, copy. And let's go, instead of pasting the formula, let's paste the actual wording. So that's the steel. And that's 2 different cells. So let's make that into the one cell. So there's a thing here where you can merge and center the cell. We'll click that. We'll make it bold and italic like the other headings. And we'll make it grey as well. And we'll put a border around it. Put a tick border around all this. So you can mess around that, you can pick whatever colours you want. But that's done for one of the sets of data. You have 4 sets of data, so you'll have 4 little tables like that. You can make them into one big table, and you can add that to your report.